Welcome back. In this video lecture, we're going to be talking about HCPCS. Okay, so we covered ICD-10-CM coding, which is diagnosis coding. In other words, the reason for the visit. We discussed CPT, which is the procedures and services. Now we're going to get into something that's really not a diagnosis or a procedure, but it's actually something else called HCPCS. HCPCS stands for the Healthcare Common Procedure Coding System, but we all refer to it as HCPCS. You can think of it as two levels. We've already covered the first level with CPT. Level 2 HCPCS are the national codes, and these cover such things as durable medical equipment, prosthetics, orthotics, supplies, and other services. These are national codes. These include such things as medications. So if somebody's taking Stelara or Humira, that'll show up as a level 2 national code. So durable medical equipment are things that are used for a medical purpose. Oxygen, what have you, concentrators. Prosthetics, orthotics, and supplies are those things: artificial limbs, braces, dressings, wheelchairs, what have you. Pretty straightforward. CMS has a HCPCS work group, and these are representatives of major components of CMS, including Medicaid, state agencies like Medi-Cal, the VA, Medicare pricing, data analysis, and coding contractors. HCPCS code, level 2 codes do not have the copyright of a private organization, and they're in the public domain. The Medicare pricing, data analysis, coding contractors are responsible for supplying these suppliers and manufacturers with assistance in determining what HCPCS code is to be used. And just for example, here's a sample of some HCPCS level 2 modifiers. Medical supervision by a physician, AD. Anesthesia services performed personally by an anesthesiologist, and so on. So for the purposes of this next quiz, you're not going to have to apply these, but it's important that you understand these per the text and understand what these modifiers actually do. HCPCS level 2 index and table of drugs has an alphabetical index and a table of drugs. All the medications are listed in alphabetical order with their associated codes. Publishers can expand this table to include brand names in addition to the generic medications. So if you can't find something, you may want to check both under the brand name and the generic. The first alphabetic character identifies the code sections. Some sections are logical. For example, R is for radiology. Other sections, the letters don't really make sense. For example, J is for drugs. And again, a note about the dental codes. These are copyrighted by the American Dental Association. And again, for those of you who have used HCPCS level 2, steps include reviewing the patient record to determine what procedures are performed, locate the main term in the level 2 index, identify the code next to the main term, go to the appropriate HCPCS level 2 code section, review the list of modifiers to identify if there are any that need to be added to the code, and assign the code. And that's all I have for you. We'll see you online. Bye now.